Hello and welcome everyone again to another video. And today's video we are going to be talking about the Master League, the best teams on the Master League. And my name is Yasser. I'm a Twitch streamer. I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Yasser, and you can find me here on YouTube as well. Master League Premier has been the most RPS, known as the most RPS Cup, but to be honest, like last year they've added some non-RPS Pokemons. And to make like a more of like a historical background about Master League Premier, it used to be like a dragon, 2 dragons, 1 steel, or 1 steel and 2 dragons. The 4th steel is Magnezone, so Dragonite, Garchomp, Metagross, Magnezone. You pick 3 of those 4 and you have a team. Then they buffed the Dragon Tail, and then Garchomp became the best dragon, so Dragonite fell off. And then they gave, I think, a Dragonite superpower. So Garchomp wasn't as useful because people were just relying on Gyarados, Excadrill core. Metagross always, something to mention here, Metagross always find its way at the end of the cup. Then because Gyarados became everywhere, people had to drop one of the steals, and Snorlax started shining as like the best Pokemon in this cup. Then they gave us Florges, and we had Florges debut into the game, and Florges just became the best Pokemon. I think the first time we had Florges, there were like very few people who had it, and this was just extremely annoying because this Pokemon was just the best. And again, Metagross always find its way back to the meta. Let's talk about the top Pokemons in this cup. And if we go to PVPoke, and you will see that the best Pokemon here is Dragonite, followed by Florges, and then Gyarados, which is expected. Those Pokemons have a coverage to cover everything in the meta. Dragonite being the best dragon, Gyarados being the best. Gyarados being the best water, the best anti-steel, the best anti-dragon, and Florges being the best fairy, the fairy that beats other fairies and destroys all the other dragons, and it's not bad into Excadrill. So let's just talk about the Pokemons. I've divided them as always into good leads, safe swap, generals. Good leads are Pokemon that have insane fast move pressure and a baiting move, with the exception of Excadrill. Excadrill, whenever they lead it, they are just hunting for the dragons whenever they see it, and from there, if you swap in something, they will just chip it and then go to their own Pokemon. Another option for a good lead, sorry, this is the 3rd time or the 4th time I think I'm recording this video because I've had so many technical issues. The first one I was recording and then it didn't record because of a space issue. So I might be like a bit, like I might complain a bit. Haxorus was this. I think Haxorus was at one point the best Pokemon in the meta, but the problem with it started falling off later because people were starting relying more on the Gyarados. But now I think Annihilate is just better because of the stab damage on counter. Yes, it's slower stat product, but the thing is they do the same amount of damage since counter is stab, while from Haxorus it's non-stab. For the food table here, what do I call it? The food table, it's literally Avalog. Avalog is going to be the most obnoxious Pokemon in this cup because not everyone has it, and I don't think this Pokemon has been, I think it spawned in one of the events and it wasn't, like, it was just extremely rare. Like, I don't call catching any, to be honest. For Ursaluna, this Pokemon, Niantic refused to give this Pokemon a decent fast move. People still insist on counter or Shadow Claw. Niantic still refusing to give both. I think at this point it must be Shadow Claw. Like, counter is not even good enough, to be honest. Como, the problem with Como, whatever Como does, a Dragonite just does it way better. The safe swaps, or you can call them like the safest Pokemons, the Snorlax being the safest Pokemon in this cup, but to be honest, it's not the best Pokemon because yes, you're safe, but if you soft lose or soft win, you're not technically winning, because people will just adapt it quickly now, especially at high MMR, like whether they usually try to chip Snorlax, lose intentionally, and then farm down the Snorlax with something else. Gyarados is literally going to be everywhere because this Pokemon is just so extremely flexible in this cup. The fact that you could run Waterfall or Dragon Breath, you could run or Aqua Tail, Crunch, or Outrage, or even Hydro Pump makes this Pokemon the safest to use. Conkeldurr was always like a slow counter user. Like if I would use a counter user, it's going to be either Haxorus or Annihilate. To be honest, I would not use Conkeldurr because it's just as slow and it doesn't have coverage. Goodra, after the buff to Aqua Tail, is now actually better. And it's bulkier, I think, than Dragonite, but the problem is it doesn't do as much as Dragonite. Florges is literally the most insane Pokemon in this cup outside Steel. It has play against everything. You beat Mamos, you beat the Ice, you beat the Dragons, and you beat Gyarados. Like, what else can you ask for? The Snorlax matchup isn't even bad. The Generals, which are Pokemon that are good everywhere, basically Garchomp, Dragonite, Metagross, and Excadrill. And there are 3 Pokemons I would like to talk more about. Feraligatr and Alligator. No, not Skeledirge, sorry. Those 2 Pokemons, their main issue is that they don't have enough stat product to fight with the big boys. But they have decent charge move coverage. They have decent pressure. Because they can still hit super effective. Like, as an example, Skeledirge can hit any main Pokemon here. With you either resist their moves or you just do super effective damage back. You have you can do incinerate super effective damage to the steel, or you resist the fairies damage, or you can just throw disarming voice, which is super effective to the dragon. So it's technically a safe Pokemon. The problem with it doesn't have stat product to fight the big boys such as Garchomp, Dragonite, even Snorlax, to be honest. Baxcalibur is, I do think that it's the second best dragon, and it has, the good thing about it is that it's not weak to ice. It's a neutral to ice. The problem with it is that nobody has it. I am sure the moment I play this cup, I will find 20 people have it. So those are like mainly the main Pokemons. Now let's talk about some core breakers. The main Pokemon here, like the main show, is going to be Hippowdon. I have a shiny Hundo female, which I'm excited to use. I think Hippowdon is going to be insanely good, as long as you don't get switch locked into Avalok. Even though you can still hit them back with super effective Rock Wither Ball, but it's not good enough. Rhyperior is actually nice, a core breaker. I think Rhyperior is decent. Primarina is decent, and Mamoswine is also good. Now moving into the best teams. The best teams in this cup, if you go to PVPoke and you choose a Dragonite, since it's the best Pokemon as your lead and you want to build a team around it, PVPoke will suggest Annihilate as a second Pokemon to cover its weaknesses. But since they are both weak to Fairy, PVPoke will recommend Metagross as a third. I do believe that this is extremely decent of a team. The problem with this team is that it struggles against the opposing Dragonite and the opposing and the Gyarados, because you don't have a way to hit the Gyarados back. And if you watch the channel, you would know how much we admired something called Top 3 PVPoke. Top 3 PVPoke, we go to PVPoke. Number 1 is Dragonite. Number 2 is Florges. Number 3 is Gyarados. So we have them here. We combine them in a team. We call it Top 3 PVPoke. But this team might not be the best because this is the best team on paper. But the problem with the paper thing is that it's supposed to be the best team that destroys everything in the meta. But the issue is that people only run 10 Pokemons, so it won't be that good of a team. So how do you like build a team in this cup? Basically, you choose your lead, okay? Like, as an example, if you choose Metagross, PVPoke will recommend Gyarados, because Metagross technically is not ideal into the opposing Steel or Dragons. It's decent in the 0, but not in the 2. So that's why PVPoke will recommend something like Gyarados, which actually makes sense. And then you have Goodra in the back, because you want to bait out the Fairies. So you either bait them out with Gyarados or with Goodra. Goodra technically... technically Gyarados is actually the better safe swap, but Goodra is slightly better if they have something like I don't know, not Skulldurge. Yeah, I think Skulldurge, you could say that. Sorry, I meant Feraligatr. But yeah, for both, it's literally the same. Goodra has a stab on Dragon Breath, where we don't have stab hit, so Goodra is better offensive. This guy is better defensively. The team I was running last time we had Master League Premier Classic, I was running a Dragonite in the back with the Snorlax as a safe switch and Florges in the lead. The problem with this team is that it struggles against Hisui and Avalog in the lead, because the moment I swap, I will get Icy Winded, and then they bring in the Dragonite into my Snorlax, which is kinda annoying, like extremely annoying. If you don't want to run that, if you feel like the team is somewhat RPS, you could honestly just always run Florges, Gyarados, and Gudra. So these are like some main meta teams. What about some off-meta teams? Like let's say you are someone who likes to play neutral Pokemons. I recommend using Golisopod. Golisopod doesn't technically get walled by anything. Yes, Snorlax's stuff, but that's pretty much it. And you can fight back any Pokemon. Yes, you don't have as much of a start product, but you could play it as a Pokemon that will soft lose the lead, and then from there you can aim to decide whatever you want, whether you want to fight for the swap or you just don't care about swap at all. Followed by the food table, Avalog. Avalog is the most obnoxious Pokemon. You could actually just do it like this, ABA Ice, but I don't like recommending ABA teams, so just do it as an ABB, and Baxcalibur in the back as the Pokemon that is supposed to snowball, because it's an ice Pokemon. It has a Dragon Claw and Icy Wind, so if you have energy lead on Baxcalibur, you just go straight Icy Wind. And I think there's some win con with, like, you could, if you are up energy, you could beat Florges in the 2 straight Icy Wind, because by the time you get to the 3rd Icy Wind, the Moonblast won't be enough to KO you, and the Dragon Breath will put them in Icy Wind range. I think so. Don't call me on that, because I think a Kyurem does it. If a Kyurem does it, then Baxcalibur can do it. Now moving into another team, another neutral team. You could run also Florges if you like Scourge, if you have a maxed out Scourge, or Golisopod. I call it Azu Double Ghost. What's the Azu Double Ghost? It's a very popular team that was made by Tactical. You could do the same concept here. While Azu is a fairy with 2 ghosts in the back, so we have Florges with 2 ghosts in the back. If you don't have those 2, you could run Golisopod as a replacement for either of those ghosts. If you're looking for a Conkeldurr team, I recommend using Conkeldurr with Gyarados, and if you use those 2, you actually do need a Florges as a hard answer to the opposing dragons. I remember I ran this team once: Gyarados, Snorlax, Florges. It's technically 3 neutral Pokemons. It's the least RPS team, but usually the least RPS teams, you have to rely on your skills sometimes, which might be an issue. Yes. If you don't have a Florges, you could just literally do Excadrill. Sorry, Florges. And if you don't have either of those, you could run the wholesome team, which is basically Machamp, Snorlax, Excadrill. If you don't have Excadrill, you can do Metagross, and if you have Machamp, I would rather if you have Annihilate, because it's actually better than Machamp. So hopefully Wholesome will surprise us with a level 50 XL Annihilate. And in this cup, if you don't have skills, you don't have to worry, because the most popular team in this cup is the one that I will be talking about after this one, which is Gyarados Double Charm. It's literally the most popular team in this cup. It's the reason people stop playing this cup at the end. Gyarados, by the way, you run Waterfall Gyarados, and then you have 2 fairies in the back. One of the fairies must be Sylveon, because Sylveon is the bulkiest one, and for the second option of choice, it's one of those 3. It's up to you. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm glad I finished this recording, because this is my 4th time recording this video. I don't know what was happening. First time, there was no music. Second time, there was no audio. Third time, I wasn't even recording. So it took me like, I don't know, an hour and a half to finish this video. So if you appreciate the content, please leave a like to the video. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, because the majority of the viewers are non-subs. Thank you so much for watching. This is the end of the video, and see you in the next one. Peace.